inviting people to vote and also giving them information as to what to bring for instead of sometimes, you know, once they're there at the poll, they forgot to bring, you know, whatever document they need.
Okay.
So something information to them, and when, what, time, etc.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Crystal.
Hello. I'm not
Hello.
sure. Hi there. Oh. Okay. Oh, hi there, Mr. Jack. I've called you. How are you doing? I called to check on you.
Right. I drafted a message to you, but I said, you know what? I may have just touch base with her in the meeting, and
Yes.
I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. You're awesome. And someone will, for everyone. Y'all give me 1 second, because I don't think Miss Melanie is going to be able to join us tonight. And so I am going to have to do everything. Zanaya,
I'm sorry. I also need to leave in a minute. You know, I have some pending things that I need to do. So I'll just stay for a while.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Henderson. I'm Ken Heverin. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm doing wonderful.
Yeah. We want to continue to do so.
Well, I'm catching this lull in the rain and sitting outside. So.
Oh, that's nice.
It is. Okay. Do you all see the NAACP membership page?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I see it.
Okay. But I'm going to have to stop it for 1 second, because I keep forgetting that it does not. And you all, I apologize. I'm going to greet everybody in a second, but I want to always make sure we start on time. And I know someone was supposed to help. They're not going to be able to make it. Oh, well. So that's down. So it is still down because some people asked me to make sure that we upload it on Facebook. And so it's still not available. Present. So we are recording, so that'll be fine. I get somebody else to do that. Okay, can you all see my screen now? No.
I don't.
No.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, there we go. Ashante, yes, Ashante, are you on the call? That's our Black History guest. Copy. For anyone that needs the membership information, I have dropped that in the chat. So you all will have that because it's going to be difficult for me to multitask doing this by myself. So I am going to make sure I have everything in here for you all. How has you all's day been?
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Same here.
Paste. Okay, I think that's everything. When I tell you I had like a million things open on my desktop, so that's gonna help me focus on what we need to focus on. Okay, and there's my screen. I didn't realize y'all can see my face.
Now there you are.
Yes, I apologize. So let me see who we have here. Hi, Ken, Luerdis, Mr. Jack, Zanaya. Hi, Sherry. I don't know, have you been in before?
Yes, I have. I think
Okay.
this is my third. I heard Dr. Atchison at West Side, and then I heard Delia last week. And yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
I joined NAACP online, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
I think he gave me the option to select for North Texas, but I don't know.
Well, because we're not, we're organizing committee, our information would not have been there. You would have had to write in there. You would have had to include our information.
Oh,
So, I think like if you write them an email, possibly they will apply it. But let me ask you, have you completed the Let's Make a Difference form so I can make sure that you're connected with everything that we're doing?
no, I have not done that yet. I've been intending to, but
Okay, so I just dropped the information in the chat. If you could do that, and I'm gonna send you my information in the chat. If you could text me so I'll have your information.
okay. So should I put my phone number in the chat?
Just text you so you can text it to me. Hi there,
good.
Pastor Mason.
Hello.
Hi there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you a co-host because I don't know if you have anything you need to share as far as your screen, but just in case, I will share that.
Thank you.
Okay. And let me text. We have someone that's going to do our Black History Moment. Let me make sure she's tuning in. Okay. Hello, everyone. So I see everybody's logging in now. Give everybody a few seconds. And we're going to greet our guest tonight. And so if you could, looks like everybody has their screen muted. If you can mute yourself on your end, so when our speaker speaks that there won't be any background noise would be great. Okay, and Ms. Stewart, I do have your information. Also in the chat, we're gonna get started here in just a second. Okay, yes. So Ashante Miles is gonna do our Black History Moment today. I'm so excited. Y'all know I always get so excited to see each and every one of you every week. And so Ashanti, she's gonna, we always start out with our Black History Moment. She's texted me, she's having trouble logging in. So we're gonna give her a second to log in. But in the meanwhile, I have already dropped the information in the chat for the membership information. As many of you all know, we have a membership drive going on. We are a organizing committee to become an NAACP branch. And so those of you who have asked about those cities, it is Coppell, Carrollton, Louisville, Flower Mound, and Grapevine. I think I said all all of those. And so if you're looking at chat, I have already dropped in the application form. So if you all could get that information in and share that with other ones, because we have a deadline we're trying to meet. So it's very, very important that you all get that in as soon as possible. And I know initially we didn't have the capability to accept electronic options, but we do have them now. So you all can take advantage of that via Zelle at DFW Metro 2020 at Gmail. So we do have that option now. So you all can see that in the chat. And then later on in the meeting, I don't want to take up time now, but later on in the meeting, you will be able to see the different levels of membership that there are. Also, for those of you that have sent in membership information, Melanie is we are sending out confirmations, because those of you that have sent it via mail, I know you have been curious to make sure that we've received it. We are going to send you a confirmation to let you know if you send it electronically, we have received it. And so, so you all would get that information. We'll send you a confirmation for that. And also there is information that we will share a little bit later about the 111th NAACP conference that's going to be going on. So we're going to go ahead and start with a word of prayer. We're going to start with a word of prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for this day. We thank you for the opportunity for us to connect and join again, Lord. We pray, God, in all that we do, that we always acknowledge you and we always reference you, that you always get the glory. So we pray, God, that we will always stay focused on you in our efforts for this organization. We are forming to make a difference in our community, to be an advocate for those that are disenfranchised, Lord, and to stand up and then help bridge gaps in when it comes to equity, and justice, and equality in our communities for all people. I thank you for everybody that you have brought to the table, everybody who has been willing, God, to step in and be a part of this initiative in any shape, form, or fashion. We have people who have connected with our education team, with our voting team, and with our economic opportunity team. We even have people who have connected with our communications team, and also our health and wellness team and other teams that are forming as well. We thank you in the midst of their busy schedules that they have sacrifice their time to be used. There's so much going on in this country right now. So we pray that you use us to be a voice and a force, God, to help bridge some of those gaps and ease some of those efforts of discrimination, Father God, that may exist. May we stand against those things. May we always stand united. I pray for your protection over each and every family that is united here. We pray for this country and this community as well. Thank you for our speaker, Pastor Mason. We pray for the Wilshire Baptist Church family. Also, as our Black History Moment guest joins, we pray for her and thank you for her efforts as well. And everybody that is connected tonight, and those that are trying to log in, and those who wanted to join us tonight, but because of scheduling conflicts could not. We thank you for all that you're doing and all that you're going to do through this organization and our efforts. In the name of Jesus, amen. Amen. Okay, so we are going to have our Black History Moment. Ashante is in, and I am going to, there we go. Hang on one second. Ashanti, if you have I made you a co-host in the event that you have a PowerPoint to show, you will be able to do that, okay? And so Ashanti, can you unmute your phone? For those of you that are joining for the first time tonight, we always start our calls off with a Black History Moment. And so that's what we are going to have at this time, is our Black History Moment by Shante Miles. Okay, unmute. Let me see if I can help you unmute. Okay, she's trying to unmute. Oh, to the bottom left, because you said, okay, you got it.
Can you hear me? See
We
me?
can hear you. So do you have
Okay.
a PowerPoint that you want to share?
I do. Thank you.
Do you need sound?
No, I'm not
Okay.
gonna do any type of video. I didn't want to take up too much time. So just the slides.
Okay, sounds good. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me share this. And then let me know if everybody can see my screen.
We can see it.
Awesome. All right. So my name is Ashante. Definitely good to meet everybody. And I'm so excited to spotlight a Texas favorite, Texas Congresswoman Barbara C. Jordan. She's played many roles in her span as an educator, a lawyer, a policy advocate, senator, congresswoman, and much, 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 much more. But she's really left us a legacy of that really sets a mark on African American history. So we're going to spotlight her today. And I'm going to try to get to the next slide here. All right, so we're going to start at her life. She has achieved many quote unquote first lifetime moments. So you'll hear a lot of that. And we're going to spotlight those. She was born in Austin, Texas, and she came from a lower income neighborhood, mainly in a Black community. Her dad was a Baptist, and between her parents, they really strive for her to achieve a lot in terms of like her education and really not afraid to, challenge herself. So she also attended Texas Southern University. She was also one of the first groups of Black students to attend the Boston University of Law. And let me move the screen over. And a couple of attributes about her: she was a master debater, and she really did strive for academic excellence. Any questions so far? I'm going to keep on moving. All right, so a little bit about her work life. She rose to a national stage of leading the Democratic Party spanning 2 decades. Also, she was the first Black woman elected to the Texas State Senate. Also, she was the first Black Texan in Congress. So really good, a lot of highlights here for her. And we're going to next, this is almost the next slide, last slide here. Some spotlights that she's had in terms of recognition and awards. Let me close this out. She was the first Black woman as a keynote speaker at the National Democratic National Convention twice in 1992 and 94. President Bill Clinton awarded her the Barbara Jordan, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. She also has a NAACP award as well. She is honored by the state of Texas as an award in her name, which is called the Barbara Jordan Media Award. And also she gave an influential opening speech at Richard Nixon's Watergate impeachment hearing. Also, she was the first African-American woman to be buried at the Texas State Cemetery. That's a huge honor. And just closing out, some closing remarks here. She retired from Congress in 1979. After retiring, she really focused on becoming a professor at the School of Public Affairs for Lyndon B. Johnson. And her health really started taking a toll. She was diagnosed with MS, as well as having cancer and diabetes. So her health declined, and her sunset was January 17th of 1996. So I have a small activity. If you can put in the chat box, what are some of her first moments? You can plug that in the chat box if you can, and we can spotlight those first moments for her. And I'm trying to look for the access to view the chat box. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here. Stop share. There we go. Okay. And we have a chat. Oh, the website. Okay, that's something else. Okay. So that was the spotlight on Barbara Jordan. Anybody have any questions?
Someone did put something in the chat,
Oh,
Ashante.
they did. Okay, there we go. I didn't see the comment box at first. I was like, where's the comment box? All right. Yes, yes. So first to be buried, yep, at the Texas State Cemetery. First Black woman to address, yep, at the Democratic National Convention. And that's really monumental. She has really made her stamp, not just as a Black woman, but coming out of Texas, right? So that was really nice to see that she came from our state. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashante. That was wonderful. We appreciate you so much. You all give Ashante a hand. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I see everyone clapping. So we're going to move right ahead. You all can see my screen, I believe. I want to go ahead and, let me see here. I don't see my face. Okay, I am going to go ahead and introduce our speaker for the evening. With no further ado, Pastor George Mason has been senior pastor of Wilshire since August of 1989. His long tenure follows the pattern of his predecessor, Pastor Bruce McIver, who was pastor of Wilshire for 30 years. He's also the founder and president of Faith Commons, a multi-ethnic, multi-faith organization committed to bringing faith to life by promoting the common good. Their website information, which he has dropped in the chat, is www.faithcommons.org. So make sure you all check that out. As part of his work with Faith Commons, he's hosts an audio and video podcast called Good God, conversations that matter about faith and public life. Pastor Mason earned a Bachelor of Business of Administration degree in 1978 from the University of Miami, where he was a quarterback on the football team. He also holds both the Master of Divinity and a Doctor of Philosophy degrees from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Fort Worth. His doctoral field of study was systematic theology with a minor in philosophy of religion. His dissertation was God's Freedom as Faithfulness, a critique of, he's going to have to help me out there, a critique.
Jürgen Moltmann.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. A native of New York City, Pastor Mason has been married to Kim since 1979. They have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. Daughter Cameron is an associate director of pastors for Texas Children and communications director for Faith Commons. She's married to Garrett, pastor Woodland Baptist Church in San Antonio. They have 3 daughters, Finley, Zeta, and Sloan, and son, Rhett, and married to Dr. Kaylee Hand, a radiologist specializing in women's health. He is director of the real estate division of the Keurig Dr. Pepper Company in Plano. They have 2 sons, Whit and Wells, and they both live in Oklahoma City, I'm sorry. And daughter Julian is pursuing a Master's of Divinity degree through Perkins School of Theology at SMU. She's married to Chris Shannon, a professional musician and producer who is also working on a music education teaching degree. They live in San Antonio and have 1 son, River. So you all give a hand for our guest tonight, Pastor Mason, the pastor of Wilshire Baptist Church in Dallas.
Thank you, Minister Crystal. Oh my goodness. Hello, everyone. Great to be with you. Thank you for having me. What an honor. And thanks for the good work you are all doing, organizing yourselves for the common good. I am so impressed and grateful. And the Mid-Cities needs you so much. We'll talk about that in just a moment. My extra light from my computer went out a minute ago. I don't know that I've been able to charge it long enough, so I might go in the dark a little bit before long, but forgive me if I do. So good to be with you. I would like to say how important I think it is, this idea is of you forming an NAACP chapter. It is crucially important, I think, that we seize the day and move from moments to movements, right? That it's important at certain times in our country's history for people to be in the streets, expressing their passion, speaking boldly, somewhat less organized, just being out there and demonstrating for what they believe in. But the only way to sustain that and to bring lasting change is for those moments to become movements. And to do that, you have to organize. You have to organize and you have to institutionalize. Racism is deeply institutionalized in this country. And the only way to root it out and to begin to change all of that is to have institutions that are anti-racist, that are inclusive, that are full of beautiful diversity, and that are working toward living into a vision that is both spiritual and political, that will bring about a beloved community. So thank you for working together, setting aside time to be in a meeting like this, being part of an effort to put together an organization like you're talking about. I had been working on matters like these for a long time. That might surprise some of you, given that I am an older white male Baptist preacher, right? Let's just get that out there, right? I will say I'm not a Southern Baptist, although I once was, but I have repented thereof. So I am a part of a group called the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, which seeks to live into our name, and that is to be cooperative. To be cooperative around matters of the common good and justice, and not just promoting ourselves. So our church, Wilshire Baptist, where I've been pastor for 31 years, is a remarkable people. And Minister Bates will tell you that we've been in relationship with Friendship West Baptist Church for some years now, and Pastor Haynes and I are great friends and work together to speak about matters of justice in the community. And it is good to be partners both personally and as congregations. You heard that I'm also working with Faith Commons, an organization I started to be a multi-faith, multi-ethnic, multi-racial organization to embody this kind of coming together, very similar to what you're talking about here in this institution that you're forming as well. So where are we right now? Well, we're in a mess and we all know it. We're in a big mess. We don't know who we are as a country. We don't know who we are as neighbors. We meet new people and we can hardly figure out how to talk to each other because we almost want to know whether they're blue or red. What's your position? We guard our conversation because we're not sure what country we live in. We have a cultural civil war that is brewing. And it is a painful moment in our country's history right now. The election that's coming up will be decisive in one sense, but divisive in another. Whether we can unify after the election, a lot of things will go into that, not the least of which is who is elected. By the way, vote, please, everyone, vote. If you're on this call, I assume I know how you're going to vote too. Maybe that's wrong, but it is what I assume at this point. So let's be specific. There has been a long litany of tragic circumstances that have revealed the underbelly of America and our own community too. We thought that George Floyd was a tipping point, and probably was in some sense. It was galvanizing in a lot of ways, but you know, we thought that Tamir Rice and Philando Castro and Trayvon Martin and all of these circumstances were also bringing these things to a head. And then of course we had the Dallas police shootings that kind of gave us all pause, and we had to take a step back because now it was the police that were killed. And so we've struggled to find our way. And then we had Botham Jean here in Dallas. And some of us were very involved with the response to that tragic shooting, the verdict that followed and the like. But now George Floyd, something so vivid in everyone's living room, watching for more than 8 minutes as a policeman put his knee on the neck of a citizen who was defenseless and cried out for his mother and couldn't breathe and ultimately died. We thought that would be a turning point. There were weeks of demonstrations in the streets over it, sermons preached, op-eds written, so much back and forth, and yet still, after all of that, we then have to deal with Jacob Blake and his being shot 7 times in the back by a police officer. We watched all of that happen. And once again with Jacob Blake, as it was also with George Floyd, as it was with Botham Jean, as it was with Michael Brown, as it was with everyone, it seems. What we had to deal with, let's not forget Ahmaud Arbery. There is always a criminalizing of the victim, and in some way, a kind of heroizing of the victimizer. This is the pattern of America and white supremacy that continues to have its way in the systems of our consciousness and our way of viewing even videotapes, of our way of thinking about the justice system, about how we're going to reckon with all of these sorts of things. And our leadership gives us such uncertain sounds. We have a young man then, 17-year-old young man from Antioch in Illinois, who is idolizing the police and loving guns, and his parents. Why do a man's parents at 17 years old let him buy an AR-15? What is this obsession with guns that we have in our country? Seriously, this is outrageous. And he decides that he's going to be part of a militia. Seriously, a volunteer group that's going to help the police, untrained, just citizens. This is not tyranny of the king that we have to oppose in the Revolutionary War, for heaven's sake. This is a manifestation of the legacy of white supremacy that is supporting law and order and law enforcement. And it continually does so at the expense of Black, Indigenous, and people of color in this country, over and over again. So here we are. What do we know? What we know is that there are different understandings about how life should be in the United States of America. Generally speaking, white people believe in freedom. They believe in freedom from government interfering with their freedom. They want law enforcement to regulate the conduct of everyone but themselves. They want them to guard and protect the people of color who are understood in the doctrine of white supremacy as being by their very nature lawless, being by their very nature untrustworthy, unable to manage their passions, control their desires, operate with responsibility and proper work ethic and ambition. This is in the doctrine of white supremacy, this is the impression that people have of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. They are not self-managed, self-disciplined. They are not the kind of people that can be trusted to operate with full and complete freedom among us as if they would do the right thing if left to themselves. Therefore, they have to be watched. They have to be policed. They have to be guarded. They have to have patrols, constantly keeping them under scrutiny and keeping them, of course, away from us. Because we are by our very nature self-disciplined, innocent. We have encoded the moral law to such an extent that we will do the right thing if we have the opportunity to do so. Original sin is not something that applies to us. It applies to people of color. And this is the unstated assumptions of the difference between the vision for society that exists between people of color and white people in America. Now, I'm a white person. I hope you can understand that not all of us believe that, but it is a legacy that all of us as white people in America have to reckon with. We have to look deep within ourselves to see what is going on in us that can bring us to these conclusions. You know, James Baldwin in The Fire Next Time said that people at the birth of this nation had a very real problem, and that is they looked at African slaves and what they saw were human beings, and they could not treat African slaves that way, so they had to figure out how to change their view of their nature. And in doing so, they created the notion of them being less than fully human. And this is a construction on our part of sin and evil and wickedness that worked in our favor and has for all these years. It must be confessed, repented of, and reparations made as a result of the long history of this in our country. But on a local level, we have to realize that it is a constant struggle. This is not something that we can simply talk about once and be done with. We can't just send our kids to school, go pay attention in Black History Month in February, and learn that there are more people that went into making up this country than some of us learned before. There were very few people I learned about who were people of color that made any difference in this country. The names were on a very short list. Martin Luther King Jr., of course, who has been co-opted as now a person who actually, by white people standards, really didn't believe that we should pay attention to color. But when you read and think about Martin Luther King that way, because of his statement that we should be judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin, you fail to understand the depths of what King was saying. Yes, we'd all want that to be the case eventually, but in the meantime, what we have to recognize is the beautiful color differences among us, the beautiful cultural differences that add, don't subtract from our country. And these do not have to do with character. They have to do with difference, but not moral inferiority or superiority. George Washington Carver was held up in my education because he, more than W.E. Du Bois, was a voice for hard work and assimilation in the culture. And so white people who control curriculums in schools historically and all of that have cherry-picked their heroes and not heard the voices of all the remarkable figures that should be known and celebrated of Black, Indigenous, and people of color over time. Now, what's happening locally right now? Sunday night, I got a text from my dear friend and colleague, Imam Omar Suleiman, who lives in Irving, Texas. He told me about the flyer that has been put in the mailboxes of many residents of Irving who live in a certain area of Irving. And this is what the flyer says. Are you ready? The headline of it says, "Return back to your country." And it reads, "Assholes. American citizens in IT industry and other professional fields have lost their jobs to many Indians and Chinese. We asked you to leave the country without further delay. We will have no choice but to shoot mercilessly at workplace, in community, on pool, or on playground." Irving, Texas, August 2020. Do you know that Irving, Texas is the city in America that has had more demonstrations of white supremacists who are armed and who are threatening mosques in their city than any other city in America, over and over again. They had a mayor, Beth Van Dyne, who claimed that Muslims should not be able to serve in government. She is now a candidate for the US Congress. This is similar to what's happening across the country. A Georgia woman who believes in the QAnon conspiracy theories and doesn't believe Muslims belong in government in the United States was the nominee for Congress in her community. And she will win because only Republicans win in those districts. This is where we are. This can't be where we head. It's got to be different. If we're going to live up to our cultural creed, which is instanced in the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, we all know that those who wrote those words believed more than they practiced. And it has taken us all this time to realize that men were not just landowning white men, but they should be all men. It wasn't just white men, but it should be black men. It wasn't just immigrants from Europe, but it should also be indigenous peoples. It wasn't just men, but it should be women. But it has been one long litany after another of trying to win those rights that were encoded in that original document and that are part of our Constitution and that have not been lived out culturally or politically in our communities. This has to change. What are we going to do about that? Well, you've talked about diversity and equality in your group. And I want to say that the diversity is important, but it is what it is. We have a diverse group of people in this country and in our communities and in the area of the Metroplex where you are organizing. But actually, diversity is not really a goal. It's simply a fact. Inclusion is the goal. Diversity simply recognizes who's there. Inclusion gives everyone who's there the power to participate and the right to participate. This is similar to the difference between tolerance and liberty. Tolerance says some people are in charge and they're willing to tolerate other people who are not. Liberty says that everyone has a right to participate freely and to be part of this. And this is why it's so important that whether you are Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Sikh, whatever you are, that you understand that Christians do not own this country and then permit other people to participate. We all are equal in the eyes of the law and have full religious liberty to practice without preference of the one over another. That is true also whether you are white, black, indigenous, or any other person of color, Latinx, Asian American, and the like. So this is where we have to head. G.K. Chesterton was a British journalist, and he was a Christian apologist. He had a great influence, actually, on Gandhi. I think the movement of independence from Britain for Indian people. And he said this. He said, let's see. We men and women are all in the same boat on a stormy sea. We owe to each other a terrible and tragic loyalty. I think that is certainly true. And the Persian poet Rumi talked about how beyond arguments, there is a long table of companionship set. And we must meet and gather there at it. This country needs to build a bigger table, not think in scarcity ways about how there are only so many jobs, there are only so many seats at the table, there's only so much wealth to go around. Rather, we need to build a bigger table and listen to every voice, lift every voice, and hear it, and be one community. This has always been a challenge, a project of America. America is an experiment in democracy, and it still is. It's no surprise that we have work to do, but we have to do it together if we're going to give to our children a different country than the one we received. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mason. Thank you. You all give Pastor Mason a hand. Pastor Mason, will you welcome questions tonight?
Of course, absolutely. Thank
Okay,
you.
you all unmute yourself so you can engage in conversation.
Oops. Hi, Pastor Mason. Oh my gosh. My name is Anita Marsh, and I just wanted to say thank you. That was just wow.
Thank you.
That was absolutely wow, because I feel like, listening to what you were saying, I have a better understanding, especially as a woman of color, and from so many different cultural perspectives, because we have Panamanian, Native American, like we are a melting pot of a family.
Good.
And I always wonder.
You and Kamala.
Huh?
You and Kamala.
Oh.
Yeah, Harris. Melting pot. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Excuse me for looking rough. I work from home. But I just, I always wondered, because I was in a predominantly, I grew up predominantly white school, private school. Even in college, I was always like the only person, sorry, trying to pat my hair down, look halfway decent, the only person of color in class a lot of times. And a lot of my friends are Caucasian. And especially as a professional and now as a business owner, I find that I am one of the onlys. And there's a very small group of us. But you broke it down as to like what the whole psychological reasoning behind a lot of the discrimination is. And I've never heard it put so eloquently. You should be like, oh my gosh, you need to be on like a really, really large platform. Like, this is big, but like, this is amazing. And, you hear a lot of different theories about, well, it's because, as a people, Black people, how they came over here. You hear about the curses and those, you just hear a lot of different things. But the way that you broke that down was just, that was phenomenal. So
well, thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Very, very much.
Well, you're very welcome. And, it's difficult to know what comes first. I think probably what comes first is the desire to be in a dominant position. But very quickly in our American history, the church took over the role of establishing the theology of white supremacy, and went and interpreted passages of the Bible in terrible ways to make it seem as if this was a God-ordained superiority and inferiority of people of color. You mentioned the curse of Ham and other passages like this, and that some would be masters and others would be slaves, and that the role of the master was to be kind, but the role of the slave was to be submissive and to obey. As if this is an eternal order, not something to be overturned in order for us to be actually sisters and brothers fully and equal partners in this creation. So the church became complicit in that, and to our everlasting detriment. And frankly, it's still complicit today. And it absolutely must speak up. And, obviously, the Black church has been mostly a voice for a kind of Christianity that is truer to the biblical witness than the white churches has been in America. We can go into that in a whole other conversation. But the white church needs to learn that the Bible was written from the point of view of the oppressed, of the prisoner, of the outcast, the vulnerable. It was not written from the position of the master, of the winner, of the people in power. And that's why we call it gospel as Christians, that it's good news. And it comes out of our Jewish heritage, of course, which begins in slavery in Egypt, for heaven's sake. And our religious tradition all comes out of this idea of being delivered from the oppressor and not becoming an oppressor then yourself. Okay, I'm going on and on. Somebody else.
Yes, hey, I want to just also echo what the other young lady said. I think your points were so on point, and I would love for you to come back and really talk about divided by faith, because some of the things you were talking about as far as the church and how white supremacy continued to oppress and enslave, Africans and all of that. So anyway, but that's not my role. But I just wanted to say, oh,
All right.
whoa.
There, yeah, there you are.
So,
Thanks, Renita.
yes,
Okay.
no problem. So first off, I do absolutely appreciate how you have broken it down. But my question for you is, how did you come to this place? Like, what was it for you that caused you to develop your awareness around the oppression and how, you know, the systemic evil root
Right.
of white supremacy that has continued to systematically try to maintain, retain power and control.
Right, so it's a combination of things, but among the things that have been important is, first of all, friendship with people of color. So let's talk about Minister Crystal's pastor, Freddie Haynes, is my friend, as are a number of other Black pastors in Dallas. And when you read the Bible and you do the faith together with people whose experience is very different from yours, it makes you stop and ask yourself some questions. Have I really been reading this right? It's also true that I'm lucky to be a Baptist kind of Christian whose parents and whose church made me read the Bible. You know, a lot of people read the Bible, but if you keep reading it, after a while, God might actually clarify some things for you. And it gets harder and harder to read the Bible from the point of view of the oppressor. And so you start listening. You get educated. You read books. You listen to people who don't look like you. And before long, you realize, wait a minute, what am I defending here? I know that I was privileged to have been born in a way that I absolutely had nothing to do with. And so much of my opportunity in life has come about because of being born to a white upper middle class family. And, you know, you can say that I've done something to build on that, but if you're really honest with yourself, I had a big leg up on people of color in this country. And I get the benefit of the doubt culturally, with law enforcement, with just about anything, you know. There are certain assumptions that you recognize that people have in our systems of criminal justice and law and policing and the like. When you go to find a job, the network of people in the white community is vast. The successful people who will help you because they know you, and you've been going to the right schools, you've been living in the right neighborhood, you've been, you know, part of generational wealth production and the like. Well, that was systematically denied to Black people in this country. When you start actually paying attention and realizing what happened after the Civil War, the revocation of the Reconstruction Project, the long history of Jim Crow, the period of segregation that then finally broke but gave way to a whole war on drugs and the mass incarceration of Black people that continue to break down families, go back to redlining in the 1930s, and the fact that the difference in wealth in this country between a Black family and a white family. A Black family has accumulated wealth of 10 cents on the dollar compared to a white family in this country. 10 cents. How does that happen? Well, mostly it happened because in 1936, during the New Deal, the federal government sent agents around to urban areas and looked at neighborhoods and drew lines on a map. And when they drew red lines around Black neighborhoods, they told the Federal Housing Authority not to subsidize loans from banks to those neighborhoods. So what happened is white people got loans to buy their houses, black people did not. They therefore had to rent, had to live in substandard housing, and they've never been able to build equity in their houses. And over generations, the single greatest way in which white people built wealth and moved to up the ladder from lower class to middle class to upper class has been the building of wealth through home ownership. And they then were able to send their kids to college and pay for them to do that, to send them to the best schools, to move into neighborhoods where it was more homogeneous and wealthy. And this is the kind of thing that has been happening. This has been happening in this country all along. And the idea that we would have a president now that would deny that there is any such thing as systemic racism, that anyone alive today in America could say that racism does not exist as a reality in the systems of this country, is completely ignorant or is willfully evil when it comes to these matters. It is, it's just a truth of history, and we have to state it.
Yes, this is Kennedy Dean. I wanted to ask you a question concerning I got in late, but you were talking about the Muslims in Irving, Texas, right?
Yeah, right.
Yes, I have been following that. Back in 2015, there, I know you're familiar with Sharia law.
Yeah,
and
right.
Sharia law courts. That was a bill that was trying to go through the House. It was House Bill 562 that was trying to go through, and that wasn't allowed because the mayor stood up in Irving, Texas, to be able to go against that. You know, I'm not against other religions, but when you try to enforce some laws, which is Sharia law within the United States of America, I am against that. And I believe in equal justice for everyone. I want to go back also to, like I said, I got in late, and with the understanding about racial tendencies, I think that comes from the upbringing of a child within the family structure, because racism is taught. We need to be able to have, as a person of faith, the community of pastors, wherever they may be, to be able to come together, white and black, to be able to come together to address this issue. Because as I've looked down the years, white evangelicals have stood back and they have not spoken up against racial injustice in this country.
Right.
They need to be able, like you yourself, you're speaking up, but we need to have others also to speak against these things that are going on, not wait back to ask, where are you?
Sure.
Why haven't you spoken up? Why haven't you been that person of leadership in the community, the people that go to your church? Why haven't you gathered them together to be able to speak up against these injustices that are going on right now in this country? Why? That's the question that I know you can't answer.
Brother, I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can, I promise you. I appreciate what you're saying, and I could agree with you more in that respect. Look, you know, part of the trouble is, you know, with white supremacy overall and being in the churches is, you know, the theology that was developed in order to support white supremacy basically said that religion and salvation and true Christianity is about saving your soul for the next life alone. That God is going to come and judge this world in all of its sinfulness. The important thing for the church is to speak, therefore, for spiritual things, not to worry too much about social justice matters and the like. The only justice matter that matters really ultimately is that you get your imputed righteousness from Jesus Christ, and therefore you're carried away at the time that you die and you go to live in heaven, because all the earth is going to burn up anyway, so what's the point? That is a terrible misreading of the Christian religion.
Yes, it is.
And so part of our struggle, you see, is that we have a lot of people that have been Billy Graham'd about that, in the sense that that's the way they understand Christian faith. So when we speak about social justice, this is a matter for a lot of white people of getting into politics and we're getting out of our lane, see? We're moving out of the spiritual realm and into the political realm, and as if that's a wrong thing to do. Now, when God sent Moses to the Pharaoh, he didn't send Moses to the Pharaoh to say, now, Pharaoh, I'm concerned about the souls of these Israelite children. I'm concerned that while they're working for you, they might be spiritually in need of salvation. He said, let my people go. That's when our faith was born, you know. It was a political act. It was an act of justice that gave rise to that. And the law followed at Mount Sinai, because people needed to know how they should live in the community and how they should be governed not by an oppressor, but by a common sense of law. And so, yeah, so I want to say part of the problem we're wrestling with in the white church is that we have a lot to undo, because we've had a couple of centuries of working on the idea that you don't mess with politics, culture, religion, and all of that. You just deal with the human soul and save it and you're good. But all that does is leave the majority of the gospel untouched. That's not okay. Now, let me say just a quick word to you, Kennedy, because I appreciate your concern about Sharia law and those sorts of things as well. And I want to say this to this whole group, because many of us on this call are Christian. I don't know if there are people of other religious traditions on the call or not, but I'm a person of particular Christian conviction. At the same time, I believe that I'm not the only kind of Christian that's going to see only the kind of Christian that looks like me when I get to heaven someday. Mm-hmm. That my faith extends to everyone, and that politically and culturally, we need to treat our Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Baha'i, and every other group as our equals in our community. You're right, we should not think that any one religious group should have the prerogative to preempt the common laws of our communities. It is true that there are some who believe in Sharia law that would like to be able to do so. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that Sharia law is to Muslims like what Jewish law is to Jews. It's specifically in Islam, what Sharia law is, what they are told is, Muhammad said that they must obey the laws of the land that they are in first of all. But Sharia law is practiced within the community of Islam and is similar to the kinds of things that we would say are ways in which we go about deciding things that are not criminal, but that are within the community, that are about how we discipline our children, how we handle things within the community of faith, and those sorts of things. So all I'm saying here is it's important to recognize that we should not judge every other religion by its worst adherents. And we don't want to be judged ourselves as Christians by the people that we most disagree with, who are most dangerous and the like. So we should treat other religions the same way. And I would say another word about inclusion and diversity too. That is that, some of us get really passionate, say, about racial justice. Well, we need to be passionate about religious discrimination also. That this is what's known as intersectionality, right? You got to recognize what privileges you have, and you can't just be selective about about equality and those sorts of things. Like, for instance, our Black History Moment today was about Barbara Jordan, a remarkable woman, but she was also a partnered lesbian woman who could not in the 1970s come out freely and be who she was. And even today, it might be for some people who don't understand that, it might tarnish her legacy in some way. It's contrary to one's own moral standard. But if we're going to be engaged in the public square, we need to stand up for all kinds of people's rights, even those who maybe don't fully share all of our values in everything. So I hope that part of your chapter that you develop will recognize the fact that we have to stand up for all sorts of people who are experiencing discrimination at the same time. Thank you so much for your question, Kennedy, and your comments. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I have a question. My name is Jackie Reed, and I'm just reading over the letter, the open letter from Freddie Haynes, who I really, really think a lot of, and definitely enjoy visiting his church. But he, at the end of his letter, he says, I invite you not to just talk about it, but to be about it. And so you spoke at the beginning of your talk about receiving this letter, and a person before me asked, what are you doing? So I'm just curious about what changes have been made inside of you and then inside of your organization, where you're not just talking about it, but as he says, just talk about it, but be about it.
Well, thanks so much. So, you know, I'm not sure exactly which letter we're talking about that Freddie did, but I probably signed it.
No, this one is called Dear Pastor Jeffress, Grace.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I got that published for him recently at Baptist News Global. So, but that was actually a couple of years ago, but Jeffress didn't respond to it, of course. But that's First Baptist Church. We share the middle name Baptist, but we're, you know how they talk about sister Baptist churches sometimes?
Yes.
Y'all know that some sisters are closer than others?
Yes.
Right.
So like my church, Wilshire Baptist, and Friendship West Baptist Church, we're like pretty close sisters, you know. But we got this other sister, First Baptist, that we're not so close with, you know. It's a funny thing in families, but look, we're not trying to kick them out of the family or anything. We're trying to be about inclusion.
Okay.
It's just sometimes hard at the Thanksgiving table. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay, so I've been at this church for 31 years, and we're mostly a white church. I'm not sure what the goal should be about that. You know, I'm not sure Friendship West really wants to be reflective completely of the demographics of Dallas. I think it likes its demographics just fine, and you know, I'm not sure that Wilshire needs to be 13% African American in order to be truly inclusive. It is what it is. The question is, are we all working together here? You know, and what are we doing? So, so here's the thing. During my 31 years at our church, we have moved to be very active socially and in the community and advocacy. And the kinds of things that we have done have well, it's been painful at times and costly in some ways, but it is what it is, right? This is what happens when you try to follow your conscience and do what you think is right. And so we've had a lot of people leave us, and we've had a lot of people come to us. So, but we've tried to shift and recognize that we have a responsibility to speak and act in our community and to do so as partners with others. We've become active in partnership with Friendship West and with other churches, with other denominations, and with other religious groups. We're part of, I'm the past chair of Faith Forward Dallas at Thanksgiving Square. I started my own nonprofit called Faith Commons, where where I work with Imam Omar Suleiman and also with Rabbi Nancy Kasten as a team of people seeking the common good, working on matters like this. We are trying not to be just a benign presence in our community, but to be deliberately anti-racist and to take actions that are such. We work hard to, we have an advocacy group in our church, social justice group, that is reading and studying all the time. Pastor Michael Waters is our guest this next month, and his book, Stakes is High. He's a terrific voice for racial justice in the community, pastor of Abundant Life AME Church. You know, we're constantly working on, there goes my light, sorry about that. We're constantly working on growing in this regard. And our church has been very understanding of my need to speak in sermons and publicly. And I write openly about these things for the Dallas Morning News and for other community publications, and have a podcast called Good God that you can find on Apple Podcasts. And we are currently finishing a summer of podcasts on racism. So, you know, we're trying to do our part. Appreciate your question. It's an ongoing work, and it won't be done in our lifetime, but nothing worth doing is worth finishing in your lifetime, right? So.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I know everyone on this call, as has already been stated, really appreciate you being here. Your being here speaks volumes. So
well, you're welcome.
Yes, so thank you very much. And thanks for that. I asked a sensitive question and you gave us a very satisfying answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't consider it to be a sensitive question. I think we got to get beyond sensitivity. White people too fragile, you know. So, all right. Anybody else?
I have one. I blacked out my picture because I'll tell you real quick. My name is Janice Isom. I'm a retired teacher. I'm homeschooling my 9-year-old granddaughter right now because of the COVID-19. Mm-hmm. So my getting up early has taken a toll on this 70-year-old woman. But anyway.
Oh, man.
So I kind of blocked it out. When I say taking a toll, I'm fine.
All right.
I just started getting tired, and so I didn't want anybody to see me in that light.
All right.
However, I wanted to ask you a question. Would you mind if we share what you just spoke to us with others?
Of course not.
Okay.
Happy for you to.
Okay. My sister lives. Okay. And the reason I ask is I know there's a lot. To me, it's a very good talk track on people that are as concerned as we are mm-hmm. on healing. And, mm-hmm. you know, sometimes if hearing it from somebody else, you know, makes another person realize that, okay, I'm not the only person that thinks this, where here's some things that I hadn't thought about. I mean, I learned a lot just listening to some of the things you talked about or recall.
Good.
So that was the first question. And then the second question, I asked one of our other spokespeople, the pastor at Westside, I can't recall his name. But I was sharing with him, I grew up during, my parents were very active in the civil rights movement. And I was young, but I still remember a lot of marches and things. And I said, you know, one of the things that I noticed, I grew up in a small town, Omaha, Nebraska, but being in a larger city, when I was growing up, it was the churches to me, or the led the movement, and I think brought the healing to our communities, just because of, you know, the way we viewed churches, the majority of the people, et cetera, and so forth. Living here, I realized it is a lot larger. You have, African American churches, churches of different nationalities, and then you have some of the mega churches that are diverse. And when things started to build, I kept thinking, okay, how come somebody's not speaking out? I know Pastor Hayes, does and has taken the lead, but other ministers. And one of the things that I've started to kind of in my gut think that some of the pastors in the mega churches don't want to offend anybody. They're human too, so kind of feel like they maybe have to take a middle road in this. And, I don't know what the answer is. And somebody else, the young man had mentioned it too. I just think, and Pastor Tony Evans has been on this for a while, that the ultimate goal in his mind and the ultimate answer to everything we're going through is going to have to be led by the churches. And, the more we experience this, the more I'm starting to believe that, and then be kind of scary because I just don't feel like things are, it's you, it's Pastor Hayes and a few others, but, coalitions and large groups make things happen. And I was just wondering your thoughts on, have you and Pastor Hayes talked about, or, your thoughts on, is that impossible?
Sure. So a few thoughts about that. Yes, it is true that the civil rights movement of the 1960s and 70s was largely fueled by the churches. Mm-hmm. It's also true that the Black Lives Matter movement is not as much so by the churches. I would say it's still living off the legacy of the church, however, and the values that came from the civil rights movement. The church has not been as consistently in the streets about it, and the Black Lives Matter folk have lost some confidence in the leadership ability of the churches and the pastors. And this is now getting me into someone used the word sensitive earlier, sensitive territory, where I've got to be careful about how much I'm criticizing the Black church. I'm gonna hold the white church accountable most of all here, okay? But the truth of the matter is the Black church has not been as consistent across the board in this matter, and has contributed also to that problem in some ways. But I want to give some props to the fact that even some of the larger, richer white churches in the Dallas area are making strides. Mm-hmm. They're showing up. Some of my colleagues that don't agree with me on a lot of things are starting to show up and to speak up about racial injustice. That's a really good sign. Now, having said that, I will say that there's still a reticence to move from rhetoric to actual policy change and advocacy for changes at the level of law and practice. There's this sense still among a lot of the churches that if you can get people's hearts right, everything will be right. Well, here's the thing. I think Kennedy said earlier, maybe it was Kennedy that talked about how racism is taught, but it's also caught. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not just taught, but it's caught. And how is it caught? Well, it's caught by living in systems that are broken. Yes. And that you don't even know how broken they are. And so you accept them as such. Like, for instance, we've got a bail system, right? That allows, if If I get pulled over for an offense and I've got some marijuana or whatever, and by the way, I never have, but I'm just saying, you know, and they take me in, I'll be out of there lickety split, you know, if I even needed bail. But if I did, I'd have all the resources possible for me to be able to get out of the jail and wait my trial and have a good lawyer and all that sort of thing. If you are poor in this country, if you are Black and a person of color, you're more likely to be poor, then you are more likely to have to be in jail because you don't have the resources to bail out. Well, what happens when you stay in jail and then you don't have the resources to have the kind of representation that I have, et cetera, et cetera? The cycle goes on and on and on, and we don't even question the bail system as if, well, that's just the way things work. Well, no, it's unfair to poor people. And so it creates cycles of poverty and criminalization and breaking up of families and all these sorts of things over and over again. So what I'm saying is, part of the church's problem is it doesn't know how to engage in public life to seek change. We get out there in the streets or we preach from our pulpits and everybody's happy if we just say, stop being racist, stop feeling that way about Black people. Stop thinking you're white, you're superior because you're white. That's not enough. We got to change the way policing is done. We got to change the way the criminal justice system operates. We got to change the way the educational system is disproportionate in this city. We have to invest more in our neighborhoods that have been deliberately disinvested from. I mean, look, it's over and over again. You go to South Dallas. How many of you have been in South Dallas and tried to find a grocery store? You find a Kroger there? You find a Tom Thumb there? Come on. I gotta choose among a half a dozen within about 1.5 miles of my house in Lakewood. Okay? They're all trying to get my business. But if you live in South Dallas, you got to go to the 7-Eleven. What do you think you're going to get there? Fresh fruits and vegetables? You know, it's not that way. And then we have increased amount of diabetes and hypertension and all kinds of health care issues that then when coronavirus comes in and you put them on top of that, my goodness, look at what's happening in our society. It's the cumulative effect of this. The problem is we're dealing with systemic problems and the church doesn't know how to talk to them. But the Bible is pretty clear about the principalities and powers that exist out there. What do you think that's talking about? It's talking about structures of evil that have to be rooted out, cast out, and we have to name those powers and defang them so that we can have the kind of open community and full participation and flourishing of one another together in our community. So anyway, there you are. I'm just ranting now.
Thank you. I got an Amber Alert and lost you for a minute, but I'll go back and check. But thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mason. We really, really appreciate you. Did anyone else have any other questions? I don't want to cut anyone short. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I told everyone that you were a gem and you did not disappoint. Now, let me share with you all in January. Now, I don't know what they are planning to do due to this pandemic, but I had the pleasure of meeting Pastor Mason and the Wilshire family, as he stated, with the teach-in that Pastor Haynes and he have during Martin Luther King weekend. I believe it is the MLK weekend. That's in right. January. So I definitely will let you all know about that when that time gets here. You do not want to miss. And so Pastor Mason, and then you all, he dropped the information for his website. Also the podcast, Good God.
Great.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
And so we definitely will tune in for that as well. Again, you all give Pastor Mason a hand, and thank you so much for being here with us. This was good. We wanted to touch into this conversation, and we did with Dr. Atchison a few weeks ago. And so to have two different people from two different backgrounds was awesome. But I would like to ask you, in the midst of all of the civil unrest that's going on, in light of the election that's approaching, I don't know. At some point, I ask, do you see? I don't want to say any end in sight, because that's not what we want. Because until there's policy changes, where do you think we would begin? Because as it stands now, I'm not really sure the current administration are making much effort to heal this country of the deep-rooted evil that has existed.
Well, since I'm not in my pulpit, I'll be glad to speak straightforwardly. I try not to use my pulpit for partisan purposes, you understand, for moral and spiritual purposes, but not partisan purposes. But at the same time, I am a citizen and I have an opinion. Donald Trump cannot be reelected, or this country is in grave danger of a kind of cultural civil war that will set us back in ways that are going to be devastating. 4 years is enough. We've already felt the pain of this dismantling of political norms, of a disrespect for public servants, of a not even a veiled racism, and a constant stream of evidence of white supremacy that continues to exist. It's got to change. Now, if Joe Biden is elected, I want to remind you that we had 8 years of Barack Obama, and we didn't suddenly become a completely, colorblind society. This is a project. It's going to take time. If Joe Biden is elected, we will still be a divided nation, and we have work to do. It's going to take all of our lifetimes. It's also going to take listening to and understanding the legitimate grief of white people in this country, that there are legitimate griefs that they are experiencing. But on the other hand, much of it is a product of just white fragility over time, and we have to work on that too. But laws have to be changed. People have to be put in positions that can make those changes. We need to rebalance the Supreme Court. We need a host of new judges at the federal level. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's worth doing, and it's worth voting and organizing toward that end. And I'm a Christian, which means I'm a person of hope. I don't give up.
Amen. I'm right there with you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Mason. So I know you all said we got an Amber Alert, and then we have storms, and I have people that have texted they weren't able to make call in because they didn't have any electricity. So we pray for those that have been impacted. And we are going, I have sent out an email. We did change the email to dfwmetro2020@gmail.com. Those of you who, your emails may have gone to your spam. So please save that email so that we can prevent that from happening. Check your emails, connect with our Facebook page. I have shared my phone number in the chat. I will share it again. Please feel free to call me probably tomorrow because my stomach has not been fed. And so, call me tomorrow if you have information. As you all know, we are in the midst of a membership drive to become we are an organizing committee in hopes of becoming, in the process of becoming a local NAACP branch. This effort is time sensitive. I have dropped the membership form in the chat. I have dropped my phone number in the chat as well. And I'm also dropping the email address in there again. Please contact me ASAP to help us make this a reality. Share the membership form with others. Have them call me if need be. I am so elated and grateful for each of you in all that you have done. Also, let me share, we are in the efforts, and Pastor Mason, I'll make sure to send the information over to you all too. We are hosting a North Texas-wide Souls to the Polls event. It highlights Super Sunday. It encourages people to get out in groups with their religious communities, their businesses, their car clubs, colleges, fraternity, sororities to find a designated spot and travel together on either October the 18th or 25th. To get out and early vote. We want you to decorate your cars, make some noise, all that fun stuff. And again, in the midst of it, it's a very important election, but we also have a pandemic going on. So we definitely want to encourage as many people as possible to early vote. So if you all are connected with other organizations, again, my information I have dropped. I will send you the press release. I will send you the flyers. I will send you the letter, everything you need to get your organization to participate in a Souls to the Polls event. We're looking forward to that. And as Pastor Mason has said, everybody must get out and vote.
Please.
And everybody must make it a responsibility to be your brother and sister's keeper to make sure they get out and vote.
Yeah.
Call somebody elderly. And let me share this real quick. I know you all have to leave, but we're in a GLTV. I'm the logistics coordinator for Get Out the Vote nonpartisan campaign. And one thing that came up, those people that are disenfranchised are in economic hardship communities, there's an option to go online and request for a form to register to vote. But many of those communities do not have printers to even be able to print out those forms. And many of us may not have thought about that. Just the idea that some can't print out the membership form, the registration forms. So we have some registration efforts going on. If you want to do it yourself, please contact us to see how you can get connected so we can help in any way possible. When you go to the mall, to the grocery stores, get you some voter, become a BDR and encourage somebody. Even if you're not a deputy registrar, just encourage somebody. Tell them how important it is for them to vote. And that's another way you can engage in conversation with somebody that may not look like you, may not have your background, or even someone who does, just to encourage them to understand just how important it is to vote. So everybody do your part, whether you are a voter, deputy registrar or not. Just encourage somebody, offer yourself to give transportation to someone that may need to get to the polls. But let's do something to make it happen. It is so much for everyone to do. So thank you all again. Please help us out with the membership stuff. Call somebody, share the information. I'll bring a copy to you if that's what you need us to do. You all have does anybody have any questions? I'm so sorry. And if you're new tonight, if you want to say hello, please say hello.
One more question.
Absolutely.
Pastor, where's your church located?
My church? 4316 Abrams Road.
Okay.
It's in East Dallas. It's a block north of Mockingbird on Abrams Road,
Okay.
about a mile and a half from SMU, east of SMU.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And I am
Thank you,
sharing
everyone.
thank you. And I'm sharing the information to his
Oh,
church
there you
in the chat as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank
And
you
I will
so much.
I will share the information for his website on the Facebook page as well, okay?
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pastor Mason, and you be blessed. God bless you. God bless everyone, and you all have an amazing evening.
All right.
Good luck,
You guys
everyone.
too. Be
Thank
God
safe.
bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Crystal.
Yes, ma'am. That was awesome, wasn't it?
That was. You talk about enlightening and setting a fire and a flame. I mean, he was just amazing. And then to me, it makes you feel so good to just realize, we're not fighting this battle alone. It crosses lines.
Absolutely.
But I was going to ask you, how would we get I'd like to share what he said with a few people. How is it the only way to do that to sign in to Zoom and get